Alrighty, welcome back to the ITMS Brief with me, your host, Manuel Lloyd. ITMS, the ITSM Brief is Information Technology Service Management Brief for medical managers and decision makers in the healthcare industry, trying to help you of those who don't have an IT department, or if you do have an IT department, help you with your processes, your people, and the products that you utilize to get your work done and to provide patient care. Today we're going to focus in on zero in on your medical practices downtime for long-term business continuity and quality patient care. Now, my marketing team puts this stuff together, so they do a tremendous job in coming up with topics and content for me to talk about. So this one is one of my favorite because I guess because I've been doing it for so long. I've been doing business continuity for over 30 years. Well, not over 30 years, about 27 years. So I'm very comfortable with this topic, and hopefully I can give you some insight today on how to zero in on your medical practices downtime for long-term business continuity and resilience. They probably couldn't fit that in there, but resilience, disaster recovery, and quality patient care, because you can't give quality patient care if your providers can't get to the systems that they need to see the patients. And of course, with the new MACRA coming around, your payer situation, technology is going to play a big role in that. And there's some things on the hacker community. They're waiting for that to happen. Just chaos, but no need to worry. You're safer than you think you are, especially if you have a good IT help desk or internal IT department or CIO that can help you. So you should be good to go. And if not, you can always give me a call, reach out to me, ask me any questions free of charge on my website, on my Twitter, or any social media. If you want to engage me in a consulting agreement, that's another story. So we'd be happy to help you with that as well. Let's just go ahead and get into it. So we have a picture of two young ladies here, and one's grabbing her head, one's smiling. So if you notice in the title, it says zero in on your medical practices downtime for long-term business continuity and quality patient care, CFR 164-308A7A. I'm sorry, A7, contingency plan. A is actually one, but it's IIA, B, C, and D, and E. Contingency plan. This is an actual requirement by HIPAA to have business continuity and disaster recovery. You have to have a backup plan, a disaster recovery plan, an emergency mode operation plan. Those are the requirements, and evaluation is also a requirement. And then the addressable items are a test and revision procedure and application criticality. The last one is application criticality analysis. So these things are required, and that's a whole nother topic that I'll be talking about here in the near future. So you're going to want to look out for that. And if you're hearing this by happen chance, just go to my website. You should see a little pop-up window there to sign up for these ITSM briefs when there are new ones out, any other kind of fresh content specifically to you, the medical manager, the CIO, the decision makers of a healthcare practice. I also help banking as well, but those are large organizations that I help, and they already have huge global IT departments. I help them from a CIO level for different things. So, but for you medical managers, this is specifically for you. So I got 13 things I think up here, but what you want to, at the end of this topic, at the end of this discussion, you want to figure out honestly which image represents you when you think about your IT. Are you happy, or you got a headache, somewhere in between? Typically, it's very polarizing. It's either you're not happy or you're happy, and because in between really doesn't do for healthcare. You have to have these systems working all the time. So we're going to talk about these 13 things, and I know people are really wanting to know what CLO disease is, but that's going to be for last. It's a little term that I made up. I hadn't heard anybody else use it before, but this is something I thought about when I was dealing with a project once. So we're going to talk about that. So let's talk about the first bullet point here, which is calculate the true cost of downtime. Most senior level people only calculate the cost that it took to repair it, not the other soft cost and things of that nature that could actually wind up being more money when you think about it. So how do you do that? Medical practices, they have changed dramatically in the last decade. No change has been more profound, though, than our dependency on information technology in the healthcare system, with the omnibus rule and EHR and things of that nature. Excuse me. So these healthcare IT systems support critical day-to-day business functions. And IT is a horizontal element of any business, not just healthcare, but any business. So when I say horizontal, if you draw a horizontal line and then you draw a bunch of vertical lines, I don't care which side you put them on that horizontal line, IT touches every single system or department or section within your medical practice. So in today's increasingly high competitive, high-tech environment, who's going to get that patient? Are you using telehealth or telemedicine or telehealth to reach out to rural areas, or do you have to refer to somebody else? It's crucial that all business operations run smoothly and efficiently with your IT. Momentum, employee productivity, patient care, customer service, they all depend on that horizontal IT infrastructure that must be both accessible and secure at all times. And a good way to remember in the healthcare industry what you have to do with your healthcare EPHI is that it has to be, just think about the CIA, like the government agency. It has to be confidential, integrity, it has to have integrity, and it has to be accessible. Okay, so confidentiality, integrity, and accessibility are the three CIA letters that you should remember when it comes to EPHI. Constant network availability is essential to medical practices of all sizes today. Patient portals. Can you access it? Can you fax through email? HIPAA secure fax. I was dealing with someone who didn't even know because their technology had been outdated by the omnibus rule. And it was weird that they were sending faxes that were not compliant. So that was something that you need to have a refresh cycle, a continuous improvement program within your organization that could capture that. And if I didn't tell you earlier, one of the things that I've been doing for these past 27 years is IT service management, which is IT strategy, design, transition, operation, and continuous service improvement. So continually improving is a methodology of ITSM in itself. I'm an ITIL certified guy, so I use that model, but there's plenty of models out there. Even in Lean, you should have some kind of a continuous improvement model. The reliance on IT systems, EHRs especially, has also created a stronger link between data center accessibility and total cost of ownership. So if your data center is internal, there's some costs associated with maintaining it. Heating in air, electric, separate circuits, cabling, you name it. All kinds of infrastructure costs that you have to deal with, or whether it be in the cloud or in somebody else's location. Even minimum amounts of unplanned downtime will result in lost revenue cycles, productivity, a negative impact on your whole reputation of your brand, of your medical practice. So preventing or rebounding from downtime used to be deemed as the IT team's problem. But you got to stop looking at the IT team as this separate foreign entity. And the IT people have to stop looking at you like you're a separate foreign entity. And there's like this Star Wars thing going on, between the Dark Force and the Jedis and all that good jazz. It's not just an IT problem, though. It's not just the IT team's issue. It's everybody's issue. I mean, this unprecedented modern day dependence on technology has made the frequency and cost of downtime more of a business problem. Because when you think about it, if you were to go ask your IT people to do a test and unplug, basically, I'm using that, kind of loosely, take down your system, see how much work you can actually get done. I bet you won't be able to get a whole lot done at all. You won't get a whole lot done, not in healthcare. You just won't. Patient charts, your PAC system, x-rays, records, referrals, treatments, the whole 9 yards. So prolonged or recurring downtime can cripple your medical practice. And it requires the attention and the understanding of senior management on down to I hate to use this word, but the lowest person on the totem pole. It requires everyone. I mean, from senior management approving the budgets to Susie and Bob in accounting who click on a link that they think somebody's going to send them some money and it becomes a phishing scam. Now, unfortunately, and this is where I'm going to get to the CLO disease down there. Many executives at medical practices are still not as tuned into daily network operations as they need to be. If your IT department or your IT consultant or firm or your IT guy or gal is not giving you weekly, monthly, quarterly, even daily reports on what's going on with the network, I know more about this because I worked for President Reagan up at Camp David when I was in the Marine Corps. And this is when I first learned about some of these things. But the presidential daily brief, that was a White House duty. But the presidential daily brief is something that, I want to get to this CLO disease real quick. But you have to at the top get more engaged in the IT activities. It's not just techie stuff. The problem is a lot of IT people try to throw a lot of tech talk at you so they can snowball you or keep you from knowing what really is going on and say, well, we're working on it and throw a bunch of technical terms at you. No, you need to have some kind of interpretation process where you guys are speaking the same language in IT, and it doesn't need to be technical language, or it needs to be translated. So if you're saying infrastructure, well, what do you mean by infrastructure? Most CEOs are going to, or C-level people are going to say, well, that means the building, right? Well, in infrastructure for IT, that means the hardware, the software, and the facilities. That is what we define as infrastructure. So you put that in some kind of a dictionary, you have it on your intranet or somewhere posted where people can understand the language of IT and not let this be Babel, the story of Babylon and Nimrod and all the languages getting confounded and all that good jazz. So you need to be more engaged at the senior level. So it's because they don't have insights. They lack a real awareness of the frequency of downtime. They're like, well, the IT people will get it back up or this and that. You need to be highly engaged. This lack of insight and visibility is regrettably putting far too many medical practices at an increased risk of downtime and costs associated with it. And believe it or not, if you ever get audited, the HIPAA auditors are going to look at that as a vulnerability and may ding you on it. So just get more engaged. I try to go and bridge the gap between C-level executives and in-house IT teams. That's what I do. And if you don't have an in-house IT team, I help you build one or help you build a system that you have something similar in place where it's a quality management system, a quality management program of IT strategy, IT design, IT transition. You take that design and transition it into IT operations, and IT operations should be in a continuous service improvement loop where you're always improving. But most C-level executives are well aware that network operations play a pivotal role in their productivity, the service that they offer, the healthcare that you provide, the profitability. They don't have the same awareness as IT personnel, though, when it comes to the frequency of downtime and what makes their data center infrastructure vulnerable to it. There's physical problems, there's logical problems. The software problems are the logical, the physical. I've gone to places where I've seen the cables hanging out the ceiling, or it was near a water pipe. I mean, a huge water pipe in one instance, or, in a bathroom. I mean, I've seen data centers where wires were just running all over the place. And if you were to trip, we used to do some things for some sheriff offices back in the 90s. And, poor guys, they do a great job of protecting and serving us in our communities. But a lot of them don't know a darn thing about IT. And they would have these cages of IT. And I remember one instance where a sheriff was called to a 911, and he was trying to get out of the building, and he tripped over a cord. And later on, the folks was like, hey, we can't connect. We can't do this and that. Well, he had unplugged the server. So you just got to be careful with it. Worse yet, many medical practices don't even have an entire in-house IT staff. You need somebody on staff if you can afford it. If you can't afford it, I understand. There's great companies that you can outsource to. And by the way, if you outsource, make sure you do it within the United States, unless you're a multinational organization and you have large that can tell you about that, because your data should never leave the U.S. Unless you have a reason to. And I'm not a lawyer, so I can't get into all of that, but just think about that for a moment. Make sure you have a U.S.-based IT staff if you outsource it. But if you don't have one person, someone who can do the day-to-day stuff, outsource it. Get a good IT consultant. Look them up. Go to their Google pages. Go to Yelp. Make sure you vet them very, very well. Because nobody in the company or organization has any insight into the problem. Because, the medical manager, she has to do her job, or he has to do his job. The CEO has to do his or her job. So you need a dedicated resource, whether it be an internal or external one. At the same time, even if you have an internal IT department, many support technicians fail to recognize the financial implications of downtime when it comes to lost revenue and lost productivity and patients walking out the door. How many of you have ever seen patients walk out the door because of downtime, and your IT person sat there and looked like, well, not my job, not my problem? It is your problem, Mr. IT person, Miss IT person. It is your problem. You are just as much a part of the business as everyone else. And you need to get your head straight when it comes to understanding the financial implications. Because here's a strong financial implication to you, Mr. or Mrs. Internal IT person. If the medical practice cannot serve patients and they keep walking out the door, you'll be walking out the door too. Not necessarily because you're going to get fired, but because there won't be any money to pay you. So you have a critical role in helping to make sure that the systems are always up. It's imperative that all levels of medical practices have insight into the probability and the implications of downtime. It's not just that the system's down. When you say that, what you're saying is money is leaving the building. Patients are leaving the building. Patients can't get treated because of your lack of vigor for making sure that the IT is doing what it's doing. This is the only way to maximize the uptime and availability of essential IT applications like your EHR, your accounting system, your badge system, whatever you have there. Without overinflating the total cost of ownership of your actual, data center or your cloud, whatever you're using, your infrastructure. Anyway, that's a mouthful. So let me get back to the calculate the cost of downtime. I have a study here from the Aberdeen Group that says a business intelligence. It's a business intelligence research firm. The downtime is costing companies 65% more per hour these days than just 2 years ago. Data calculated downtime costs at that time were $165,000 compared to just $100,000 a few years ago. According to Symantec's 2011 Medical Practices Disaster Preparedness Survey, medical practices lost an average of $3,000 each day from down systems and networks. $3,000 per day. Medium-sized practices bleed even more money, losing an average of $23,000 per day. But I work with organizations that are huge at times. I have some organizations that at least the money is huge. They lose, gosh, they could lose $100,000 an hour, not a day. I'm talking about small to medium sized practices here. You know, the one doc office up to the 10, 15, 20 doc practice. But I work with organizations who have 200 doctors. Some of them have 1,000 doctors. You know, and that's not counting the PAs and the specialists and all that stuff like that. Can you imagine losing $100,000 per hour? What's that? Almost $1 million a day? That's a lot of money. You know, medical managers, you know, are not just practice managers too. You need to think that you're a medical manager if you're managing anything in medical. You know, C-level executives, mid-level management, supervisors, IT personnel must consider both the direct and the indirect cost. So in keeping in the topic about calculating the true cost of downtime, let's talk about the direct costs. Some of the direct costs are, and I'll just mention a few here, there's a lot of them, you know, wasted wages on paid to idle employees. You're paying them, what, $10,000 a year for a water cooler break, because that's about how often your system's down. That's per employee. You have to factor that in. That's real money. Existing or potential patients walking out or lost during the outage. That's money walking out of the door. The expensive emergency service call or repair bill issued by an on-call IT person. They're going to come in there going, hey, this is a medical practice. I know they have the money to pay me, so I'm not going to give them any discounts. They may not try to beat you, but they're definitely not going to give you any discounts. They're going to come in there at over $100 an hour. And if it's an emergency, they're going to charge you triple. You know? So, and that's just to get your business back up. You don't know what damage was done. Just think about it. You're in the medical industry if you're listening to this, right? And even if you're not, you know, you go to a doctor after you faint or something, and they recover you from fainting, and they send you home, but you don't know why you fainted. Why would you not find out why? So getting your system back up and not knowing why it went down in the first place and having some kind of a plan, a treatment plan, is not going to be any good for you. So those are some of the direct costs. Some of the indirect costs, such as lost patients, like I mentioned, who have moved on after too many. Our server is down. You know, they're harder to quantify, but they're more costly, equating to about, according to this report here, what is it? Roughly 62% of all network downtime costs. Wow. Patients walking out of the door. A specific dollar amount obviously can't be placed on lost productivity, right? The long-term consequence of damaged reputation and wasted opportunities that accompany each downtime event is going to be tough to quantify the cost. But one thing we can quantify is a bad reputation. With Google reviews, Yelp, TripFinder, Facebook, people can put bad reviews everywhere. You gotta think about this stuff. You know, this is one of the reasons why CIOs or IT support people, they don't have the visibility or insight to understand what the average downtime truly costs them or costs your medical practice. That's why it's, you know, if you don't have one of the things I would recommend you get from your internal IT person, your IT consultant, or a company like ours is a RMM tool, remote monitoring and management tool. Now we have one that I've called My Virtual CIO. It runs all these reports and monitors and alerts like ADT when there's an issue, and it gives you the immediate information of what's going on so you can proactively work on it and plan for the future. But you need some kind of RMM tool. You know, the residual effects of a network outage are typically much more costly than costs related to identifying the actual root cause of the failure and repairing or replacing any physical device or reinstalling the software or, you know, getting a new service provider. But so many C-level executives remain mindful of only what the downtime costs regarding repair or replacement costs. not the indirect and direct costs and the snowball effect. They also tend to gloss over the fact that their day-to-day business processes are more susceptible to outages and inaccessible data than they really think or really know, because they don't know. You need to have an executive report on your desk every single day, every other day, every week, not in gibberish, not in geek, but in numbers. The numbers don't lie. If you're a CEO, if you're a medical manager, you're looking at numbers all the time. Okay, so just think about that. Let's move on to the next one. Zero in on infrastructure vulnerability to data center downtime. Now, your data center may not necessarily be in the cloud or somewhere down the street or another state. You may have one in you may have a big data center with multiple servers and firewalls and routers and equipment in a special room, or you just may have one rack full of servers and stuff. That is your data center. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. So, what are some of the leading causes of downtime? Most people think it's natural disasters, but believe it or not, that's only about 5%. That's really, right here in Wilmington, we had a lot of floods. One place, I won't mention their name, they didn't give me permission to, a hospital that we were trying to help was lost, what? 1/5, no, they only have 1/5 of their HVAC working because of the flood. And they thought they were okay because, okay, the IT is good. Well, IT is not good because you can't cool all that equipment with one HVAC system. Okay? You just can't do it. Not in the size building that they were in. It's going to burn up. That equipment's going to burn up and your data's going to be gone. And if you don't have a business continuity disaster recovery plan in place, you're toast. Number one reason for downtime is electronic failure or power outages. That's about 48% in our research. And this is our research that we've done here. And we've looked all over and looked at studies, and we concur with this. Power outage at 48%. The next one is going to be accidental data deletion at about 31%. Employee created, about 29%. It's right up there with accidental deletion, but these two, accidental deletion of data and employee created, are pretty much still people related unless the software does something or the hardware does something and corrupts the data. The next one is viruses and malware, about 25%. However, ransomware is creeping up to the top above people-based accidents. About 88% of ransomware attacks happen to medical practices. That's right. Because you have data that hackers want that's more than just a credit card, because they can get the credit card when they get the EPHI, because they're going to have the social security number, date of birth, conditions, things. Last night on the news, I saw they were doing a thing on laptops that people either give away or sold, or phones, and that the data was still there. People freaked out. Well, obviously, I'm quite sure you got advice. Number one, make sure you get good cyber insurance to protect you. But if you're going to sell something like a cell phone or a server, take the hard drives out. Cell phones, wipe them. There's a way to wipe, mobile devices. Take the hard drives out. You can try to reuse them within your organization. There is an actual standard in HIPAA. I don't know the CFR right off the top of my head. I usually do. But it's media control. What do you do with media? How do you bring it back into the environment? How do you destroy it? Safest thing to do is that if you're going to not use that thing again, shred it. Just absolutely destroy it. Don't format it, because that's not going to work. You format a hard drive, you give it to me, I'll pull your data back up for you. I could almost promise you that. Excuse me. Unless you do some form of zero formatting or degaussing or whatever the case may be. But even then, I just wouldn't trust it. Next one is going to be application failure. And this is big. This is one of the reasons why cloud computing is so hot, because those applications can be put into the cloud very quickly, very rapidly, and recover even faster. So those are things to think about. And on the power side of things, make sure you consider, well, you should have separate circuits for your data center. I don't care if it's just one rack, have a separate circuit for it. Let it run its own power and be on a separate circuit. Okay? And try not to put it in a bathroom. If that's all your data means to you, honestly, just give it up. That's just ridiculous. That really is. And you can go, well, we don't have enough money. Okay. Go to the cloud then. Don't put your stuff in a bathroom. Excuse me. That would be a HIPAA violation, I would think, for physical security. Let's go to the next one here. Power-related outages. Let's talk. No, I just talked about that. No, I didn't talk about it. Let's talk about it. I'm going to talk about all of these, actually. I gave you the percentages, and I'm looking at my bullet points here. So power-related outages. These are going to be vulnerabilities to a data center's power. Still rank as this ranks as one of the leading causes of unplanned network outages and can be often catastrophic, particularly costs for the UPS or the uninterruptible power supply related failures. This includes the batteries and also generator failures. We had another group that during this flood lost half of their generators. You know why? They didn't test them. They didn't know. So they weren't prepared for this disaster. I wouldn't be surprised if I see something in the news about them. We offered our help and they refused, but c'est la vie. And we offered free help too, by the way. We weren't going to charge them for it. Yeah, I had a motive in there to help them, but also to get my face in there so they could see how good we could do, because we know once they become a customer, they'll be one for life. So, but they didn't check. On accidental data deletion and employee created downtime, human error is preventable. A lot of training, a lot of coordination. Whether months of data is unintentionally lost, or a backup error, or a power cord is unplugged, or a busy IT person overlooks routine maintenance and alert monitoring if you have it, or there's a mistake in judgment during an emergency by the IT technician. You know what they say, the error is human, and quite frequently as well in this industry. A study by Gartner Group, one of my favorite research firms, IT research and advisory firms, projected that through next year, 2017, 80+% of downtime will be due to people and process issues, not products. Not products. The three things that matter are the people, the process, and the products. And the people and the process are the things that are going to cause more failure than products. I agree with that. I concur. I don't know if y'all remember back in the fall of 2010, a company named Foursquare, they use a mobile check-in app. They had a highly publicized outage for 11 hours, followed by another shorter outage the next day. And about 3+ million users of the app were affected. And it was a chain of human mistakes that led to this outage, to both outages, actually. The IT people noticed that one server or server farm was storing too much data. But as the support team tried to resolve the issue, all the servers went down. And that was not because of you, the medical manager, or you, the CEO. That was poor planning on the IT people. You can't really blame them too much. Poor guys, I feel sorry for them a little bit. Guys and gals. I imagine a lot of people lost their jobs over that. Anyway, viruses, I mentioned. Medical practices are often guilty of this one thing, though. Here is a note I got here that they're immune to hackers because they're so small. Like I told you, according to the National Cyber Alliance and Semantic Survey, 77% of these don't believe they're at risk of cybercrime, while 83% admit to having no formal measures in place at all to countermeasure these threats. And of course, I mentioned that 88% of ransomware attacks are in the healthcare industry. This isn't merely just a threat to your data. It puts your bank accounts and the data of your patients at risk, which brings on HIPAA fines, lawsuits, reputation damage, the whole 9 yards. So application failure. Many of these applications or their components contribute to recurring downtime. That's why it's so important. If you don't have a vetting system or a RFP system for choosing software vendors, you probably need to get one and go through that process through your lean process or your whatever standard that you use, Six Sigma, whatever standard. Go through that and make sure you have something in place, because many applications, they will cause downtime recurrently. Virtualization is cool and offers many multifaceted advantages. It also further exacerbates overlapping applications in the infrastructure. One small application, though, can fail and can impact all the other applications. For instance, if you have, one or two host machines, these are physical machines that you can actually touch, and then you have, let's say 5 to 10, I've seen some with thousands of virtual machines on these hosts, and that virtual machine dies. All 1,000 of those machines, if you don't have a contingency plan and some kind of failover plan, are gone. They're down. So you want to be careful with virtualization as well. So those are 6 things that I've taken some notes down on to talk about that are the most crucial that I can think about. And I want to give you these other things here to share where you need to look deeply and do some kind of an audit. Whether you hire somebody to come in and do an audit or whether you do it yourself, just be honest about it. You need to audit your infrastructure. Remember what I said that was earlier in the terms of IT? That is your hardware, your software, and your facilities. So the physical and logical inspection of your hardware, software, and facilities. You can easily do the hardware and software piece. You can easily do the facilities piece. But the hardware and software piece are going to be is going to be something that you could do with software to kind of find out, your warranty tracking. I mean, again, I'm going to throw this plug in here just because I can give myself a commercial. You need to think about taking a free trial offer of our My Virtual CIO software. It's easy, lightweight, doesn't interrupt your business, and you put it on your network, and it goes out and it scans your entire network for everything that has an IP address on it. And there you have an inventory. You have problem reports. You can tell what machines are not patched, which machines are not secure, if there's any rogue devices on your network, the whole 9 yards. And if you decide to buy it, right now my marketing folks are promoting it for just $200 a month, and I think it's well worth it. But that'll be up to you. You should take a look at the demo. There's a video on this channel here that I think you can take a look at. So the next thing you need to inspect is your connectivity. If uptime is important to you, having two circuits from two different providers is something you should consider for downtime. Because if Time Warner goes down and AT&T goes down, right? I'm sorry, if Time Warner goes down but AT&T's still up, if you have two circuits with a load balancing failover router, you don't have to worry about it. You can look like this lady over here on the right, happy because she's not sweating it. Whereas the lady on the left goes, oh my God, Time Warner just went down. We can't get to our cloud applications. We can't send our email faxes. We can't get to our email. We can't do anything outside of this building. So you want to inspect your connectivity. And again, having a load balancing failover router that load balances between the two different connections. It's just a little router that takes the circuit from AT&T. I'm just using AT&T and Time Warner, for instance. Takes the circuit from there and takes the circuit from Time Warner. You plug them back into a multi-WAN port load balancer. and it bonds the data so you have faster and more robust speed. But if one is not doing so well, and more than likely it's going to be the Time Warner one unless you have a dedicated pipe over the AT&T T1 or whatever the case may be. So just think about that. The mobility piece speaks for itself. Biggest thing I can tell you right here is that if you're going to use mobile within your infrastructure, some downtime can come. Believe it or not, mobile devices can get malware on. So we want to have a guest network at your facility, at your medical practice. And you want to be able to have a secondary site in case you do need to ramp up. I know a company that I work with, I do a lot with, Course 360. They're in Norcross, Georgia. I think they have an office in Raleigh and also in Charlotte. Well, I know they have one in Charlotte, and I haven't been to their Raleigh office. But they have a little service. You have to call them for the details. Rich Venna is the guy's name. Rich Venna, the guy that I deal with. I won't give his number out over the phone, but just reach out to Course 360 or over this speech, because he may not want me to give it out, but I'm quite sure you can get them. But they sell a service for like $360, and it gives you availability to having a secondary site and equipment ready to go in case of a disaster. So that's one company I know of. There may be others out there, but that's the one I found to be pretty reliable. So that's what I'll say about mobility. Performance, again, having an RMM tool like My Virtual CIO is going to tell you which servers are performing the best and being taxed the most, and which ones are performing the worst. And then performance tuning is something you can get your IT department or your IT team to come in and fine tune those things based upon real data, not guessing, but real data to tell you how the SQL servers are doing, to tell you how the hard drives are doing, tell you how the memory's doing, if you have any outdated equipment, the whole 9 yards. So, if you don't want My Virtual CIO, there's other RMM tools out there you can get, SolarWinds and some others that'll do that stuff. They're just more expensive, I would say. Mine is easy. It installs in less than 5-10 minutes across your entire network. It goes the speed of your network, and you can have reports within 2 to 4 hours, even quicker than that. You can have some reports within an hour. So just think about that. Reliability, of course, is your what we're talking about here is your business continuity, disaster recovery. Biggest thing on that is for your healthcare practices, your medical practices, is that CFR 164-308A7 is make sure you understand what those 6 implementations are, 4 are required, 2 are addressable. If you need more information on that, just reach out to me. I'll give my information out at the end of this speech. And then, of course, you want to take those reports and that data with your senior level management, your mid-level management, your IT people, and you want to look at all your servers, all your databases, find out what the end user programs are for training, and are they quick to click on phishing scams, all your networking and all your telecom. Yes, telecom, voice over IP. One company that I know of, and I have to look more into this, is that they tout HIPAA compliant voice over IP. Now, that may mean a lot of things. The name of the company is Ring Central, and good company. I actually used them myself, and I love their service. Their conferencing features are great, and I've been using them for a while. But this HIPAA compliant voice over IP system has my attention. So, anyway, CLO disease. What I've been trying to get to here. CLO disease is a disease that executives get when they either get burned out, or they just don't care, or they are too afraid to admit that they don't know more than the IT person. And if you're in that situation, that means you're not communicating well, and you contract CLO disease. Now, it's not a real physical disease, although some may argue otherwise. But CLO, my little acronym means Chief Laissez-Faire Officer. Chief Laissez-Faire Officer. Where you go, let the IT people worry about it. Let this person worry about it. When it comes to I don't know about other things, but when it comes, that's up to you. But I know about IT. And when it comes to your IT, you better be more engaged than what I've seen in the past here. I'm telling you, it's just only going to get tougher as we get more dependent upon technology and we have more medical records that have to be electronic. So let me go ahead and wrap this up, though, because I'm going pretty long here. I'm already at 45 minutes. I apologize if I've gone longer than my normal, but this is some good stuff, I think. Don't you think? Let me know. As a matter of fact, send me your comments. I want to hear the good, the bad, the ugly, so I can quality improve what I'm doing here. Despite the risk, though, of downtime, many medical practices really still don't feel that they are a risk, but you are. You really are. You're under attack right now, as a matter of fact. You're just the on-ramp to Highway 40, if you will, or the main interstate that's in your area. You're just the on-ramp. There's an overall sentiment that it won't happen to me. Or I love this one. Nothing has happened yet. Knock on wood. Well, if you keep thinking like that, the knock you'll be hearing is the knock on your door from OCR. And saying, hey, you got some violations here, and you were negligent. It can be assumed that many hear the word disaster, quote unquote, and mistakenly assess the immediate risk of natural disasters, such as hurricanes here in Wilmington, earthquakes, tornadoes, impacting their day-to-day business. But that's not the case. Those events are undoubtedly can contribute to a significant number of unplanned, prolonged outages. The truth is, though, there's a new breed of modern era disaster culprits that can very literally happen on any given day. Ransomware is one of them. That can happen any moment right now. Even while you're listening to me speak, that can happen to you because somebody can click on something. There's not anything you can do about it unless you plan. Down networks and data centers, from power outages, human error, viruses, malware, all the stuff I talked about, application failures are much more probable and could be just as fatal to medical practices. C-level executives and medical managers, they must honestly assess their risk, quantify the downtime, which is huge. You have to quantify it and improve your disaster recovery efforts. And know that it is the law. That's why I put the CFR up here. That is something you need to get intimate with and understand, that CFR for your medical practice. Because if you do get audited, all 6 of those things are going to be brought to your attention real quick. And of course, having a BAA is number one, having a business associate agreement with someone who's working with you. But if you do this yourself even, make sure you get intimate with that one code there. Regarding the return on investment for your technology that you buy, it's important to remember that, conventional disaster recovery can be expensive since it requires more than time and resources. There's a lot of planning and stuff that goes into it. Store data on backup tapes. I've run into people who still have tapes. But this can also be more prone to error, though. I don't like tapes. I just don't. I'm not a fan. Offsite tape backups will always lead to extended downtime since recovery hinges on the retrieval and delivery of those tapes and which tapes. And if you're doing a good rotation, now you can buy these iRobot looking guys and take, but I just don't like them. It's your call. But I highly advise against any kind of tape backup system. Many medical practices are turning to the cloud and virtualization because it's cost effective, and it better prepares you for outages in the case of lost information. And you have, business continuity, disaster recovery. A research from Semantic, I think back in 2012, I believe it was, talked about it. This stunned me. I remember reading this, stunned me. Talked about disaster preparedness survey. And 26% of executives, or 25%, I think it was 26, cited disaster preparedness as a moderate to large influence on their choice to move to the cloud. 30% said minimizing downtime was influenced their decision to move to a public cloud. Remember, there's the public, private, and hybrid clouds that I talk about. And 32% said a quicker recovery time affected their decision to move to a private cloud. Medical practices can benefit from a little help when it comes to poorly implementing and leveraging cloud technology to strengthen their disaster recovery efforts. They can really benefit from this. I mean, it's cheap, basically. That's what you're looking for. But make sure you listen to, I don't know if I have it out there yet. You guys, I don't know if y'all have it out there yet, guys. But the 7 things to ask I think it's on my LinkedIn, 7 things to ask your cloud service provider before you sign a deal. You need to ask them that. One of the other things to think about is if you don't have one, maybe outsourcing to a 24/7 NOC or network operating center, operations center team offering remote monitoring and management solutions. If you can't afford that, look at doing something like, here I go again with my own commercial, but my virtual CIO, which will do all of that stuff automatically and send you reports based upon when you want them. Also with a help desk, a 24/7 help desk, it can assist you in improving backup, monitoring, troubleshooting for the best uptime and business continuity. And whatever you do, have some kind of model in place, a management model in place, ITSM. That's why I call it the ITSM brief. ITSM is, you can use COVID, Lean, ITIL. It's your call. But have some kind of framework in place to standardize what your people, your processes, and your products do for you so you can maximize uptime. Look, this is probably the longest brief I've done. So I'm going to go ahead and end it there. I hope you got something out of this, and I look forward to speaking on the next one. And if you have any questions, you can email me, Manuel, Manuel, at MWL Consulting. That's MWL Consulting. Or you can go to my website, mwlconsulting.com. So that's Manuel at mwlconsulting.com, by the way. You can follow me at Twitter at mwlconsulting.com. Hook up with me on Facebook at mwlconsulting.com. LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn, and just reach out to me and ask questions. I'll answer your questions as much as I can through those means. And of course, I'm always available for hire. If you need me to come in and help you audit and do some of these things, just reach out to me. My phone number is 910-210-0485. 910-210-0485. If you're outside of my calling area, 888-270-4473, 888-270-4473. And at either of those numbers, I'm at extension 101. Thanks so much, guys. This has been the ITSM Brief, and I look forward to talk to you soon. Prosper in everything you do.